Hey, 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 this is Seagrove, and today we are finally back for the second part of A History of the Game, joined today by Israel Sosa. Israel, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, explain like when you got into the game, obviously your successful history with the game and all that.
My name's Israel. Been playing since Stormfront '08, I think it came out. Um, been been competitive since Dragon Exalted and won 5 regionals. Been in World Championships 4 times. Got top 16 in European Intercontinentals last year, and yeah.
Okay, very cool. So, Jay Horning took us through basically the World Championship in 2010. And going into 2011, what decks are big at that point?
Uh, right after Worlds, that's when Gengar Plume, Lux Chomp, and Sableye was the top 3 for that meta. Oh, and Diagonal Chomp.
Okay.
Um, basically, SP was basically the primary thing, and then there was Gengar Plume and Gyarados was the only like viable evolutions besides maybe Machamp, but didn't see too much.
Okay.
Um, then leading up to where Nationals was, so that's before around States. That's when the Lost World came out,
Okay.
and that
What's the
whole
Lost World?
so the Lost World was a new mechanic that they introduced, whereas uh, like how in Yu-Gi-Oh there's this place called the Remove Zone, where it's like they're completely out of the game, and so they created this mechanic where there's a stadium called Lost World, where if you have 7 cards in your remove zone or in their remove zone, if you declared Lost World, you win automatically. So you don't even have to take prizes, or just as long as you get their Pokemon into the remove zone, you just win.
Okay, and how do you get a Pokemon into the remove zone?
There attacks that were out there was like Gengar Prime, where for every psychic that you have attached to it, you get to discard a Pokemon from your opponent's hand. And there was cards where it lets you reveal their hands, like Smeargle. Uh, I think I know Spiritomb shuffles it. Uh,
Interesting.
don't remember the rest of the stuff, but I know Gengar Prime was the primary one, where it's just like you attach a bunch of psychics and discard their hand,
Okay.
and then leading up to Nationals, that's when Black and White came out, and that's when the new rule change came. Whereas like before, it was if you go first, you could just only attach and attack. But now with the Black and White rules, it made the first person in the turn, go get to play items and supporters and all that. So
Okay.
it became like this broken thing, whereas like people were playing like Sable Donk decks, whereas like you use it's a Pokebody. I can't remember from the top of my head what was the ability called, where it makes you automatically go first. So you
Oh.
took so you took advantage of it. You play plus powers, you play all this kind of stuff, and you just donk in the first turn.
So you could attack first before the change and after the change.
Mm-hmm. It's just this Pokebody. It's just like if you have it active with the ability, you go first. But if there's two, you have to flip a coin.
Okay.
So it was like this ridiculous thing, and like I remember somebody mentioning that they had like these little surveys where say like what you think of this format, and eventually they made a mid-season rotation,
And what
where
what what month was that?
May
Okay. So right before Nationals.
right before Nationals. So Nationals was the first thing that played with this new rotation, and the decks for that time was Zoid, which was Zork, Cincino, uh, Donphan. What was the other one?
Okay. Had Black and White the base set come out yet?
Yeah.
Okay. And were there EXs in the base set of Black and White?
No, it was only primes at the moment.
Okay. Were there primes and there weren't primes in the base set of X and Y though.
Primes was Heart Gold.
Okay.
So that was when there's that deck, Reshibor, Reshiplosion, and Yamega Magnezone. And Justin Sanchez ended up winning the tournament against Puka in the finals with Yamega Magnezone.
Okay.
And it created like this weird format for the World Championships, and a lot of people like got a little creative with their decks. So because of the World's Championship card that they gave out that year was Tropical Beach. So
was there any access to Tropical Beach before the World Championship, or was it like you walk in, you get the card, and that was
so if you're in the World Championships, you got this card,
and that was the only way you could get it?
Yes. And so grinders,
and it was legal.
It was legal for Worlds that year.
Oh, okay, wow. And one more question: how many sets were legal at that point? Because they did this mid-season rotation
of Tropical Beaches.
How many sets?
The booster packs. I think it was Heart Gold.
Heart Gold was legal. Black White was legal. I mean, like what? How many sets were legal?
I think it was like about 6, 7,
okay,
opposed to like 9, 10, and that's when like people got creative, and that's when Ross made the Truth deck.
Okay, what was the Truth deck?
It was his item lock deck, where it's like you have different attackers like Sacram, Reshiram, and whereas like you use their ability with Outrage, and knock people out with the amount of damage that you have on yourself.
Okay.
And it was a cool little mechanic, just because like with Bioplume, you're cutting off the plus powers, which was a big thing for that format, and you're cutting off Pokemon Reversal, so you can never pick off anything, and you can control the amount of damage on your board with this Pokemon called Ranunculus, where it's like Dusknar, but for your side of the field.
Okay.
So he abused Tropical Beach by loading up his board, Tropical Beach, and build a board until he's pretty much set up to the point where he just outrage and kill everything, and you can never one-shot it back.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So where did he finish at Worlds that year?
He got second place, and I think it was a bad matchup for him, if I remember his report that he wrote for that year. And it was against Magnezone Reshiram. That was David Cohen winning.
Okay. And was David Cohen a big name?
I didn't know too much about David Cohen, just because I wasn't too big in the scene.
Okay.
But I heard that he was a very good player, so I would imagine that he has some achievements before this win.
And do you know who some of the big players were at the time?
Jay Witz, he was playing at the time.
Okay, was Jay Witz I only know him from YouTube, and now that he works from Pokemon, was he a very competitive player?
Oh, he was an extremely competitive player. He was making YouTube videos about like different decks and rotations. He was the big guy that you would look at for Pokemon advice.
Did he have like a lot of accomplishments?
Oh, I don't know too much about his accomplishments.
But he was a solid player.
Yeah, he was a solid player, and he was very well known in the community.
Okay.
Sammy Sakum was also playing at the time, and he was a big player from the United Kingdom.
Okay, I've heard of him.
Yeah, he has a lot of achievements from World Championships. Jay Haring was playing at the time. I think that's pretty much all the big names I remember.
I guess Ross was pretty good. And Pram, was he around at the time? And Klaczynski, and obviously Puka was pretty good too.
I think that was the year where Klaczynski had lost in grinders that year. I forgot what was it about. It was like something controversial. But he lost in grinders that year. I don't think he got into the championships that year.
Oh, okay.
Primo, I don't know what happened. I don't know if he. I assume that he made it to the World Championships that year, but I could be wrong. I don't know too much. I didn't know Primo at the time.
Okay. So, Ross got second at Worlds, and then Cohen won it. Mm-hmm. And then is there another rotation after Worlds?
No, I think they just kept going with. They just kept going with it.
Because they had done a mid-season one, they didn't. They
done the mid-season rotation, so they just kind of just added on.
Okay.
But like that following set, like nothing really big came out.
Okay.
Um, so Truth kind of like kept going. It kind of got a little bit popular, but it was just still Reshieplosion, just kind of running all over the place in battle roads.
Okay.
Uh,
And what were battle roads again?
they are the league challenges of today.
Okay.
So back then they were called battle roads.
Okay.
And going into cities, that's when Noble Victories came out, and that's when Gothel was a deck.
Okay.
Eels, a bunch of the things that came out
What
that like
what did you pair eels with at that time?
uh, there was a deck called Genies where you paired it with Tornadus and Thunderous.
Oh, okay.
Um,
But this is before any EXs still? Even
it's still before any X's. We're almost
okay.
there.
I don't know. Okay.
And then Durant was the deck. It was basically Saberlock, but it was just more annoying. It's just a mill deck that just make you just the amount of ants that are on the board, the amount of
Yeah.
cards you discard on top of your deck.
And that was one Klaczynski, I think, was famous for.
Yes.
Because I'm pretty sure I read an article by him about that. But, okay.
And then,
And that's going into cities. It's pretty similar besides Durant and a couple other things.
mhm.
Okay.
Then going into states, that's when the EXs came out.
Okay.
That's when
And what EXs were there?
Mewtwo, Regigigas, uh, what else came out this? I just know the biggest one was just Mewtwo. I know
Okay.
that was. Um, in states was basically just Mewtwo Wars,
Okay.
where everyone just had Mewtwo's and just became if you have a plus power, we knock each other out kind of thing.
Okay.
Uh,
And how much?
bunch of-
Why was it just Mewtwo?
It's just because of just how strong the card was at the time. Whereas like before that set, like it wasn't that heavy in HP. So with Mewtwo coming out, it's hitting you for 60, 70, and that's already cutting half of what, or even just knocking out basics itself. And so it was just a good card to have, and it's just so splashful in pretty much anything, especially in Eels.
Okay. So it's kind of like Lele, except with weakness, it sort of
Mhm.
it counters itself.
Basically counter itself, and it was just this dumb format. I didn't play that format at the time. This is when I was on my little break.
Okay.
Um, and then that's when Darkness Explorers came out. Um, and that's when my boy came out.
That's Darkrai.
Darkrai, Sableye.
Okay. Is Keldeo in that?
No, not yet. Not
Okay.
yet. But Darkrai EX was the big thing going into Nationals. And the big thing for Nationals was Hammer Time. And funny enough, Kling Klang win. And,
So why did Kling
you know,
Klang win that?
it's just, honestly, I don't even know. Like, from what I heard from stories, is that it's one of those weekends where you just run high and you avoid Hammer Time the entire weekend. You just win.
Okay.
And it's just like it had a counter for pretty much everything. It's like with Rainbow Energies, you have like Groudon, Kyogre, pretty much everything you're gonna one shot
Okay.
for weakness.
And why was Mewtwo still in the pick? Okay, what is Hammer Time? I don't know what Hammer Time is.
Okay, so Hammer Time is basically a deck where it's like you're removing energies, so you have Crushing Hammers, Loss Remover, which is Enhanced Hammer today,
Okay.
and Mewtwo was still a thing. This is when I also forgot to mention that Shaman was a thing, but it wasn't to draw 6 cards, it was to move energy around, so it was like an endless energy switch from one
Okay.
Pokemon to another Pokemon.
It was like
So-
Aromatisse, basically,
Basically,
but
but
for
it's just,
anything.
yeah, you can move whatever you want, and so that's when it's like sneaky Mewtwo plays can come out of nowhere, or sneaky Terrakion
wow.
plays come out of nowhere.
Okay.
Um,
So is that like a Mewtwo, Darkrai, Terrakion? Was that a deck?
mhm.
Okay. And Darkrai was good because of resistance to Mewtwo, I guess.
It was resisted to Mewtwo, but it's also it just basically just took Durant off of the board, out of the face of the meta,
Okay.
and it's just a fast and aggressive attacker, and just like you're two-shotting any EX.
Okay. Why does it beat Durant?
You're shooting for 90 and you're splashing 30 to another Pokemon, and eventually you're going to set it up to the point where you're getting double knockouts if you played it correctly.
Okay.
And you're hitting a lot harder than they are milling you. So.
Okay. So John Roberts wins with Kling Klang Nationals. And then what's Worlds look like?
Worlds, that's when, from what I remember from watching on the stream, it was just basically Darkrai being the big thing. Darkrai, Terrakion, Mewtwo with Shaman, and that's basically what it was for the finals. It was just a mirror match.
Okay.
And that was Harrison versus Igor. And
okay. And Igor won that, right?
Igor won because Harrison prized his last Shaman.
Okay. I think I actually saw that video. You can watch that video on YouTube, right?
Yeah, it's still there. Still there.
Okay. And so you say he prized his last Shaman. Was Shaman like when you play it down you can move energies, or you can is it constant? Oh, okay.
It's just a one-time ability. You bench it and it just moves all the energy.
Okay. So Igor wins. And was that his breakout tournament? I mean, like was he known before that?
I personally don't know, but it definitely made a name for himself after that. That if he didn't have any achievements before that.
Okay. Okay. I don't know. I guess he was known to an extent because they sort of knew who he was. But I don't know. Anyways. Okay, so that's 2012, correct? And then at the start of 2013, were you playing again?
This is where I took my first competitive season, and I wanted to find it where it's just like I was competitive to where I was going to a bunch of cities and states around my area, but I wasn't traveling all over the place.
Okay. And what is so I'm guessing there is a rotation now after after that. So Mewtwo Wars didn't last that long in 2012.
Mewtwo Wars was still a thing during this season as well.
Okay.
It started to die out a little bit more and more in the years. But going to this one, I think the rotation was, I think this was Black and White and on.
Okay. 2013?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's when Dragon Exalted came out and for Battle Roads, and the decks that were popular was Garchomp. It was a very hyped deck, and it did not reach to the expectations that it had. And then Darkrai Hydreigon was a popular choice.
What did Hydreigon do?
Hydreigon is Aromatisse, but it's a stage 2, and you move dark energies.
Okay.
And then
so Shaman rotated then?
Shaman rotated, yeah.
Okay.
So all Heart Gold, Soul Silver things came out. And then Hammer Time was still a thing. And Ray Eels came out.
Okay.
So that's when the Rayquaza EX came out and made a good impact into the format.
Okay, was that Rayquaza Eels then? Oh, Ray Eel. Okay. Yes.
Yeah, Ray.
I got it. Okay. Like that box you can buy, I guess. Okay. And was Keldeo a thing now?
Now it is. For cities, Boundaries Cross came out, and Landorus and Keldeo was the big things that came out of that format.
Okay. It's the 30-30, the Buzzwole Landorus? Okay.
And so the big decks for that one was still Hammer Time, Blastoise, which is like how it is for Archie's Toys, but you do it the old-fashioned way and play Rare Candy from a Squirtle.
Okay.
Blastoise, Keldeo, Hammer Time, Darkrai, Mewtwo, Buffalot.
What's Buffalot?
Buffalot is it's like Lugia. It hits for 120 and it has a buffer ability where it reduces any attack by 20.
Okay.
And then I think Big Basics had a little splash in the meta.
What's Big Basics?
Big Basics is Landorus EX, Mewtwo, and Terrakion, or like a bunch of these little things. So it's basically Big Basics.
Yeah.
You hit really quick for a small amount of energy. Oh, Tornadus EX, that's what it was. Tornadus EX.
Okay.
Ho-Oh was big for Puka. That's when he had his like little streak of like 20 wins.
Is that the one you flip it coin? Okay.
Rebirth.
Oh, so he had a 20 win streak.
It was like a big win streak. It was like he was winning like I think he won like three straight cities or something like that.
Wow. With
Yeah,
Ho-Oh.
with Ho-Oh.
Okay. That's awesome.
Um, and then like at the dying end of that cities run, going into the regionals, that's when Quad Sigilyph was a deck. It was a troll deck where basically you wall all EXs and then you just hammer off all the energy off the basic non-EX ones,
Okay.
and you just basically just sweep with just Sigilyph.
Okay.
Um,
And was
and then
Puka doing the what's it called?
commentating?
The top cut?
Yes, that's when Top Cut was still a thing, and that's when I grew as a player by watching his videos every
Okay.
week.
Was Jay Witz part of that, or he had his own channel?
He had his own YouTube channel. In the Top Cut, it was Ben Potter, Michael Pramawat, Drew Holton, and Puka.
Oh, okay. I didn't know Pram was part of that.
hmm
Okay.
Um, and then going to States, that's when Lasers came out, and Big Basics, Darkrai, Lasers, Blastoise had Black Kyurem.
Right.
Now,
The dragon,
the dragon that's max
Okay.
for 200.
which was crazy back then, right? Did anything live 200?
No,
Okay.
but I guess it's just like maybe for Evilites, you just one shot for sure.
Okay. Evilite is like hard charm.
Hard charm,
20 less damage from all attacks or something like that.
20
Okay.
less damage. Um, let's see, leading into Nationals. That's when it got a little creative. That's when a bunch of different decks came up, and that's when Celigor was coming a little bit popular in the Europe,
Mm.
and it was starting to grow into the U.S.
Deck and cover.
Deck and cover,
Okay.
and then you throw out Gothitelle, and this is when Floatstones first came out.
Oh, this is the first set ever.
First set that it
Okay.
came out. It was right before. It was like Battle Roads, which is League Challenges, before Nationals, and it just became a little bit. It just became a big deck. And I'll talk a little bit more about it closer to Worlds, but
You mentioned battle roads a few times. Were battle roads like spread throughout the season, or did you have like a period here where you have them and a period at the end of the season when you had them?
it was basically from the beginning of the season, and it goes at the end. It's right before Nationals.
So there's only two periods where you can
It
play
was just
battle
two
roads. Okay, so it's like cities have its own. It's like battle roads, cities, states, battle roads.
It has this little rotation. Yep.
Okay.
And then Gothitelle Plasma Pokemon first came out at that time, so people were getting a little creative with just playing like Quad Kyurem or
Whoa.
yeah, uh, Thunderous Heavy. Like it was very creative. TDK was the name of the deck.
Right.
Darkrai Lasers was a thing,
Okay.
and then
Was
going
Bank
into
out? Was Verbank out? Verbank City?
yeah, it came out for states that no, Fairbank. I don't remember if they came out in the same pack. It was weird for Boundaries Cross because like they didn't have everything they were supposed to have in that set. They just put in a bunch of fillers.
Okay.
So I don't recall if they were in the same thing, but I would imagine they were. But I remember that talk back then.
So I take it Kyurem in TDK were pretty popular decks.
hmm
Every time I played a Kyurem at Daytona, every time I put it down, people would be like, "Oh, I love that card. I haven't seen it in so long." And I was like, "Okay."
It's just the memories, man.
Yeah.
Just the memories.
So this is going into nationals.
Nationals,
Okay.
and that's when like a secret deck came out, and that's when Darkrai Garb came out.
Okay. What was the secret deck?
That was it.
Oh,
Darkrai
Darker
Garb.
Garb. Okay.
Whereas like you have a bunch of it's basically a straight list, but you just have Garbs on the side, and it was designed just to be TDK and Gothitelle Celigor.
Okay.
And
What's the Gothitelle? Or I don't know what that Pokemon is.
it's basically Trevenant, but it's a stage 2.
Okay.
And
Okay. Is it still legal? It's black and white?
It's legal for expanded, yeah.
But no one played it because you can play Trevenant.
You
Okay.
and that's what you have to use red candy to get to it.
Right.
And that's what the deck was kind of like big for. Is like you play beaches, so it's like you start with actually I don't even know what the name of the thing is, but Gothita.
Gothalite? I don't know. I don't know.
I don't remember.
Okay.
You just put it out there, beach. You usually just hit like a skylight to get rare candy, the Gothita, and then you just play your hand from there.
Okay. It's the thing in the. It looks like an emo Gardevoir.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
very goth.
Okay.
Um,
So
and then
nationals.
nationals, the finals was TDK and Gothita Celigor, and Gothita Celigor won from Edmund Kuras, which is a player from around here.
Okay.
And fun, and like the story I think Kenny told me was like the day before they were supposed to play for nationals, he was testing with them and he didn't win a single game, and he was like, you know what, fuck it, I'm just gonna play this deck and see what happens, and he ended up winning the whole thing.
He didn't win a single game, or Kenny didn't win a single game,
No, he didn't win a single game. Like
and he played it
was like
anyways.
he just played it anyways, just to see what happens, and he got it.
That's awesome.
And funny enough, like he didn't have his invite at the time. He's had enough play points to play for nationals by going through a bunch of battle roads and like a couple cities here and there, just because he was going through his senior year in high school.
Okay.
And yeah, he got it.
That's awesome.
He hit it and got his world invite.
And what was his name again?
Edmund Kuras.
Okay.
And so going into Worlds, a Celadgar was the talk, whereas like people are forced to play double Keldeo, triple Keldeo if they want to do it that way. More focus on supporters instead of items because of Gothito and Celadgar. It was just so cancerous and so awful. Like I remember going to Vancouver that year, and I was like debating on playing 3 Keldeo, or I think I remember I just played like 15 supporters in my deck.
Because of the Trevenant thing, whatever it's called.
Because of the item lock, I did not want to deal with it, and also it's just I needed I played double Keldeo. I was almost considering the triple Keldeo, but
Okay.
I got knocked. But then I got knocked out round 1. But anyway,
Oh, that was the grinder?
that was Grinder that year.
Okay.
Yeah, I got knocked out round 1 to a Pokemon.
Okay. I talk about what the format for the grinder. We've mentioned it a couple times. The grinder is what?
It's basically a last chance qualifier to get into Worlds, where it's like you play a single elimination. If you lose, you go home. If you win, you keep playing, and then they set a cap to how many people they want to take from this grinder to go into the World Championships to get their invite like that. So you don't have to get all the points to get into the World Championships. If you get through the grind from this tournament, you get your invite like that.
Okay. Is there any time limit? I mean, like, can you tie and then neither of you go, or?
No, it's like you have to keep. It is like before a couple years back, it was Swiss rounds, and tie wasn't a thing. It was like if you have more prizes, you lose, or if you take more prizes, you win. But this one, yes, it's the same thing. So like if you're losing in prizes by +3 turns, you lose.
Okay.
And that meta, it was like a couple Gothitels. Like I think it's like just because of the hype it got going into this tournament, not many people played it. There was still a good amount playing it, but it wasn't like high as number. It was like maybe like 15% of the field.
Okay.
And for the World Championships, and that was the same case. Like it was just like Darkrai Garb was a thing, TDK, Blastoise, Ray Eels, and ended up winning in the finals. It was Jason K winning his 3rd Worlds with straight dark, with lasers, and beating over Simon Naroda and TDK.
Okay. And that was 2000. That was 2013, right?
Yeah, 2013.
Okay. In 2014, is what's the format there?
So after that, that's when my story came along.
Okay.
Um,
So you haven't won a regional yet.
I haven't won a tournament at this point.
It's 2014,
2014
and you won.
is
So in you win 5 regionals in 3 years. Is that right?
4 years. 4 years.
4 years.
Yeah,
Did you win
4
one
years.
in 2017?
Yeah, I won the Portland.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
14, 15. Okay. Wow. Okay. Okay, awesome. So
So
you're
yeah,
so
so
2014.
2014 is where my story came along. Like I was just only a known player in the Cali area. And I wasn't like a big name in that area. It was just like it's like they know of me because of like, I made a couple cuts here, a couple cuts there in
Okay.
cities.
But you weren't like, were you good at this point?
I felt like I was getting a lot better. I was
Uh,
starting to understand the game more and more as like that first year of competing. I learned a lot from watching the top cut for
so
hours.
so you'd been playing competitively for a year and a half, basically.
This is my second year,
Okay.
technically. So, that year is when Plasma Blast came out, and the top four decks that were supposed to do well was Parisian Genesec, which is
Very popular.
very, very popular. TDK, Darkrai Garb, and Blastoise.
Okay. I know these decks now. This feels good.
Sweet. Luckily, so at least we'll go through these years a little bit more quicker.
Okay.
Just because it's actually I remember most of this. The other ones I had to like refresh my memory.
Right.
But uh, but I ended up winning the first week and the second week of regionals with straight dark.
You won
And
2 regionals like back to back?
back to back week, yeah.
Okay.
And
No Garbodor?
no Garbodor. I just kind of just like took the gamble, because I was like, if I go, I was thinking like just because I just like from learning from watching people play, is like with watching their decks like being unique and all that. I just noticed like how consistent their decks were.
Yeah.
So I was like thinking in my head, it's like if my deck is consistent, I should do well in a big tournament. And so I kind of took that philosophy and it worked out.
Yeah.
And like it made a Darkrai. I got a tech to work for those 2 regionals, but it kind of lost steam after that. It was Frozen City, which is a stadium for Plasma. Whereas like if you attach an energy to a non-plasma Pokemon, you take 2 damage.
Okay.
And that was my counter for Blastoise at the
Okay.
time.
Oh, okay, yes. I can see that.
And so that was that for regionals.
So if they put 4 energies on you, one shot, basically.
Yeah, with an expert hit.
Did you
3
ha-
energy, and I had also had lasers and
Okay.
dark claws. Yeah,
And what's Dark Claw?
it's basically muscle band, but for dark Pokemon only.
Okay. And what about was Bank a thing?
Burbank's still a thing, yeah, with
Okay.
lasers.
Okay. Okay. So there's the math for it.
hmm
So you win 2 regionals,
hmm
and then what point of the year is that?
We're still in the first regionals. This is when they created the new system where it's like it's best of 3 for regionals.
Was it
Where
best of
tie
one
was
before that?
introduced. It was best of 1 for regionals and states. Everything was best of 1 until you get to the top cut.
Okay, so how many rounds did you play at a regionals back then when it was best of one?
Best of 1, we play 8,
Oh.
but there was no ties.
Oh, but how many people were there at regionals back then?
It wasn't as much as it is now.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
It was at least like maybe 300,
Okay,
200.
okay, okay. This is making more sense. Okay, so then they put this new system in, best of threes, and you just build consistent deck and win 2 regionals back to back weeks.
Mhm.
Okay,
It was just funny enough where it's like I made the deck go into the meta, but it didn't do anything after that. I think I don't remember if it was Jimmy Pendaris or Jimmy McClare that got top 8 at one of the last regionals for Fort Wayne, I want to believe.
okay,
But what was like basically best deck in format at that time was Blastoise. Then Virizion Mewtwo was a deck that popped up, came out of nowhere. Big Basics came back. Because it kind of died out because of the Plasma Pokemon.
Mm-hmm.
Then we're going into cities, and this is when cities. What's that came out? Oh, that was when the Legendary Treasures came out. That's like kind of like didn't do much in that format. It was just basically the same thing. Maybe a couple cute little things there. I mean, the cards were pretty cool. I mean, like the little like decorations on the cards, like.
Yeah.
So I didn't mind it, but
But it wasn't a super competitive set.
no, it was probably the weakest set I have been around for.
Okay.
But for cities, basically Plasma, the big thing was Yeti, which is everything is basically like TDK, but you're more focused on Snorlax. And what Snorlax did was...
Why is it called Yeti?
Because of Snorlax.
Okay.
Snow monster.
Okay, so it's Snorlax. And what else is in there?
Thundurus, some Tekalugia in there, but it's Thundurus, Snorlax, and Deoxys.
Okay. The Plasma Deoxys EX?
Mm-hmm.
That adds damage to Plasma, is that right? Okay.
Yeah. And so that was a big deck for cities. Tool Drop was also a thing. Virgin, still on top. And then like closer to going into the second set of regionals for winter, it was Raybor becoming a thing, where instead of Eels, you're using Ambor as an energy accelerator.
Okay.
And that kind of just took Virizion Genesect out of the picture in my area. But Darkrai Guard was a big thing for the East Coast.
Okay.
And then the following set, that's when XY came out, and this is when my other homeboy came out, Evital.
Okay. So that's this 2014 is when X and Y came out?
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is right before States, and Evital, Trevenant, all this bunch of other things came out, and basically the decks was basically the same thing. It was just Blastoise, Evital, Garb, Plasma. Nothing really changed.
Okay.
And then Raybor was still there, but kind of died out. Virizion Genesect was there, but it was just like it had its moments where it's like it'll hit, it doesn't hit, kind of thing.
Yeah, people loved it, but I guess it never really did anything big.
It was consistent enough where it's just like it'll have a decent amount of wins, but it also didn't have. Like, it was kind of just flop kind of thing.
Yeah.
It was weird. It was one of those decks. And then going into regionals, I don't think the new set came out. I think it was still the same set for X and Y. Yeah. And that's when Trevenant kind of popped up a little bit. Trevenant Acceligor.
Oh, okay.
So that's basically reliving the deck again. And the only way you could bring Pokemon like Lysander effects is basically just Pokemon Catcher, where you flip a coin.
Okay. There's no.
So Virizion Genesect.
That's when the errata happened, or did it happen?
Yeah, the errata happened.
Okay.
It happened during cities.
So before cities, you could you had Pokemon
Without
Catcher,
effects,
but no flip.
Yep, no flip.
Okay.
So cities, that's also I forgot to mention. So going into cities, that's when they add the effect, and that's when Pokemon Catcher kind of just died out. But it still popped up, but it was not like a 4-up anymore. It was like a 1-up, 2-up kind of thing.
Okay.
So yeah, Virizion Genesect kind of just blew up. This is where I won my 3rd regionals in Seattle with Evital Buffalap. And then Virizion Genesect was a big thing going into nationals, and then that's when Flashfire came out.
And that's Lysander.
And that's when Lysander came out.
Okay.
Lysander came out, and pyroar came out. How I hated that card.
I can imagine. So pyroar, this is the pyroar that blocks basics. There are 2 pyroars, right?
Yeah, that was the one that blocked basics.
Okay.
It was just only one pyroar too. The other one didn't come out yet.
Oh, it was okay. Yeah, you're right.
So pyroar, it was a weird thing with pyroar. Like it popped up winning in small countries, regionals like Singapore. I think it was that one with pyroar, or
Was that nationals or regionals?
it was nationals, but it was like this is where like nationals like have their own thing, whereas like UK had their own nationals, the
Right.
French had their own nationals, and like you see pyroar pop up here and there, but like no one knew what the counts was, and like it didn't pop up anywhere, like a list or anything like that. It was just like quiet,
Okay.
and I don't know. I missed the memo apparently. I didn't get that email, where it's like, you get the fucking counts, and going into nationals is about like 40 to almost 60%. It was pyroar,
Oh wow.
and
So I take it you
T
didn't do so well.
surprisingly enough, I didn't run into a single one. I avoided all the pyroars.
Oh, nice.
But I ran into a bunch of plasma Pokemon, and it's just it was more designed to be more aggressive and had more speed than what it used to be, by adding like bikes and stuff like that.
Right.
And so I ended up losing to three of them, beating maybe one, and I ended up going 5-4, I believe, or 4-4-1, almost getting a loss in my last round just because I fell asleep in the middle of the match. But luckily, I was playing a good buddy of mine, so he kind of woke me up every now and then. It's like, "Hey, dude, it's your turn." Oh, okay.
Oh wow. So that's nationals.
hmm
And what won nationals?
Brandon Salazar won with that one with its Landy Raichu Garb deck,
Okay.
and he beat Pramawat, which got second with Pyroar.
Okay. And then is Furious Fist become legal before Worlds?
No, no set came out after that. Fury Fist came out right after Worlds.
Okay.
But for Worlds, it's the same thing like what it did last year, where Gothitelle was the deck that everyone was scared of. Where so
Really,
now,
not Trevenant?
no, Trevenant wasn't. Well, Trevenant was like the only reason why Trevenant didn't pop up is because Virizion Genesect kept it in check. With Virizion, you can never get paralyzed if you have Grass Energy. So if Trevenant faced Virizion Genesect, it will
Okay.
almost 100% lose unless Virizion Genesect just dead draw.
Okay, so why does Gothel, whatever it's called, beat Verzian Genesect? Does it not play Excelgor?
Oh no. I'm saying like I'm just giving an example where it's like Pyroar was like the deck that everyone
Oh,
feared.
okay.
Like how the following year where
Right.
Gothitelle was
I see. I'm sorry.
yeah. So people were attacking more for that matchup, whereas like Evotel decks were playing Garb. If you're not playing Garb, you're not playing correctly. Brazen Just like it was weird. It's like Pyroar, Evotel Garb, and Landy Garb was the decks that was being talked for Worlds, and it went a full 180. I will never understand this. Whereas like the meta for that year was Virizion Genesect and Evotel Garb.
Hmm.
It was like very little Plasma, very little Pyroar, and Flygon was a thing. This is when Russell's bullshit came out. And like it came out right before that. Boundaries Cross Climbing. Like it did well into nationals that year
Okay.
as well. Forgot to mention that. But
And who wins the World Championship that year?
Andrew Estrada wins the world championship. He beat Igor Costa in a mirror match,
Okay.
which I will never understand to this day. Like how did Igor lose that game?
And what were they playing?
Breezing Genesect.
Okay. Oh, okay. It won Worlds.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
2014.
2014.
And then
We're almost there.
Almost there. 2015. So you said Furious Fist comes out, and that's Toad.
Toad, Lucario.
What's Lucario, right?
Yeah. So Toad was the biggest thing that came out of that thing.
Quaking Punch for days.
Love that card.
But Mewtwo's still a thing, right?
I totally forgot about the damn Mewtwo.
Does Mewtwo?
Mewtwo was paired up with Pyroar. And, like it still showed, but Mewtwo Wars wasn't a thing as much. like how it was back then. It
But
was like
how did Mewtwo fare against Seismitoad? I
it was a
mean,
way to deal with
that's
it was one of the ways to deal with Toad was to play Mewtwo.
okay. And then I understand. Was this Toad Slurpuff? Was Slurpuff a thing?
Not yet.
Okay. So what decks are there going into the 2015 season? What's the format look like?
So this is when
Still Virgin.
so Freezing Genesect, Evital, Semsitoad, and for the first regionals. Okay, so regionals going into this. This is when Dolphin starting to pop up.
Oh, okay. And that's cities and everything too.
Yep. But also I wanted to mention that they introduced a new rule this year, whereas that year for the first day it's standard. Second day it's expanded.
Okay.
So if you make it to the second day, you have to build a whole new deck and try to think what's the other people playing. This is like I never liked this format. I think it's me being biased because I didn't win that year. I mean, like it was too random. I didn't like the idea. It was like it became creative, but up to like more into the season, it was just like more. It's like, all right, who I'm playing? Oh, he plays this deck and this deck most of the time. I just got a tech for that, and I'll make the top four easily.
Oh, okay. Were you still allowed to attack going first? When did that rule change? Oh, yeah. Because you said
oh my god, I totally forgot that rule too.
That's fine.
That was after I won my two regionals. So with the Pokemon Catcher Errata, that's when the rule changed as well, where you can't attack first.
Okay.
You have to attack second only.
Okay. So what you said, Virizion Genesect, and what were the other ones you mentioned were good in this?
Evital, Semsitoad, TDK.
Okay.
Yeah, TDK had a really good run for a while.
Yeah, it sounds like it's still relevant.
It's staying strong. Staying strong. And that's when Donphan starting to pop up a little bit here and there.
Oh, right.
And then Pyroar, it died out in standard at around this time.
Okay.
But Jay Herring, and when he was playing in Arizona, he actually made it through day one with Pyroar. And
Okay.
it's like one of those decks where it's like, if I hit the right matchups, I'll make it. If I don't, I won't.
Right.
And throughout the standard format, it just became Donphan heavy, and Pyroar being there, I don't know why, and Plasma.
Okay.
And Breezy Genesect. Utah kind of like fell a little bit. For expanded, it was very different.
Was this the first year with expanded?
It's first year expanded, and
Okay.
from the top of my head, all I know is I know Christy won the first regionals with Pyroar for expanded.
Okay.
Beat a Pyroar in the finals. And this is when like Sam Chan had his little story where he wins the regionals and he was so close to winning the second one, and he ended up losing in top 8. Like he was starting to heat up at the time.
Is this was Sam Chin a name at the time?
Yeah, he was a name.
Okay.
I think I haven't met him that time yet. Have I? Anyways, going into cities, this is when
Donphan just dominated, is what I understood. Is that
Donphan,
right?
Donphan dominated the regionals,
Okay.
and this is where I turned the game sideways and ruined its day. So this is when Night March came out. I try to remember the top of my head. Was
Okay. So Phantom Forces, yeah.
Phantom Forces. So a bunch of the things that were good and expanded came out. So like Versus Seeker, Battle Compressor, Night March, Metal,
Mega
stuff,
Manectric.
Mega Manectric. Like it was an endless thing. It's probably one of the best sets I
Yeah.
ever witnessed. And that's when Donphan was the most hyped thing. And if you cannot beat Donphan, like pretty much it's not even worth. Like Brazen Genesect was kind of dying out at the time.
It lost to Donphan.
Hmm.
Okay.
Uh, but this is when so this is when I introduced Yveltal Hard Charm as a deck.
Okay.
Uh, the day before my first cities, I was like testing Yveltal lasers, and I just kind of got annoyed with the deck just because of inconsistent
Mm-hmm.
issues. And so I was kind of messing around, and Chris Collins made a deck in Arizona, and he got through day one with Yveltal Hard Charms. But he played with super scoop ups and a bunch of those things, which I didn't like flip effects.
Right.
So, so I switched it to more of my liking, more consistent, more like guarantee. And my ace spec at the time was scoop up Cyclone. So it was just a deck where it just like had hard charms, max potions, scoop ups, a bunch of those things, and Donphan can never hit you as hard. So you use tank with Baby Bird, and eventually
Right, because
Donphan
it's
just
minus 40, right? Because of resistance and the hard charm.
exactly, yep.
Okay.
And then Yveltal with a hard charm, you're never gonna kill it, even if you wreck it. I don't think you one shot it, and then you just kind of hurt them by playing max potion,
Okay.
and you just rebuild again. It
Yeah.
was, and this is when Trump card also came out before it's banned.
Okay. When was it? Was it banned that same year?
Yeah, it comes up eventually.
Okay.
Let's see. So Yveltal Hard Charm became a staple in the meta. Donphan kind of died out. Plasma had its moments, but like even though I changed the game a little bit sideways, I did it in the wrong direction and kind of backfired on me because
Okay.
I ruined Donphan, but I promoted Aromatisse, and this is when Aromatisse became a big thing for the cities format.
Okay. And what was
So
Aromatisse played with?
a bunch of things like there was a Semsatoad heavy build where it's like you use Malamar to put Pokemon to sleep, you play lasers, and then use Quake. And once your Semsatoad's about to die, you move the energy, max potion, keep going.
Okay. So you just play fairy
Hmm.
energy. Oh, if does
And
Malamar
Rainbow
work for
energy.
any energy?
Yeah.
Okay, so you just put the energy and then move it to
Hmm.
Seismitoad. Okay.
Kangaskhan was another one.
It's
And
like
then like
which king is con EX?
yeah, EX with a Mega, the first Mega.
Okay, so people were playing megas without
Yeah.
spirit links.
Mhm.
Okay.
And then Manectric became a little thing too. Even Manectric was in Aromatisse as well. Um,
Oh, like a energy box type of deck.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, I think I've
So
seen
like,
those.
it's like it became a little bit more creative, and like for the West Coast, it was Aromatisse heavy. In the East Coast, it was like Landy Bats and Night March being a thing. Like Night March wasn't popular in the West Coast area, and I kind of noticed it. Like this is when I started to understand like how the formats is different from different areas, and never understood how and why. But
Yeah.
um, and then going into regionals, um, Night March, Landy Bats, Aromatisse were the top three decks.
Okay. Were
Um,
regionals sort of like battle rows where they had a period, like regionals here,
it was the same thing like the following years where it's like it was winter, fall,
or? Oh,
winter,
okay,
spring.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So this is the winter one, and uh, this is when, like I said, Landy Bats, Night March, uh, Aromatisse, Manectric variants, stuff like that, which is still alive. Evital was dead, basically.
Okay.
Uh, then going into states, that's when Primal Clash came out.
Okay.
So Primal Clash, that's when Groudon came out.
Right.
That's when Kyogre came out. Uh, Bunnelby. So like people got a little bit creative with their decks for the states, and the big deck. This is when the decks were just like mostly just to annoy me, and basically it was like Semsatoad, Aromatisse, Semsatoad, Surpluff.
And what's Slurpuff do?
Surpluff is lets you if it's active, you could draw two cards. If it's on the bench, you could draw one card.
Okay.
And the ability is called Tasting.
Okay.
Um, Landy Bats was still around.
Hmm. And
It was
then
like Executor mill deck was also coming there
did,
too.
did he prevent you from supporters? Okay.
Supporters. So it was like this broken mechanic where it's like you battle compress for a couple eggs and you could get Archie's and Polyon out pretty much
Okay.
consistently in
To
turn one.
increase the damage from Executor.
It was also like it's just like you get endless draw with the egg, you pay the egg, then you can put it on the bench. So
Oh,
it's like
that's diving draw.
yeah, diving draw.
Okay. I was thinking of a different Poleanos. I don't think that's what it does. Okay. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. So
So that's like the Zoroark of GX of today ability. You can discard a card to draw two, and so the egg has propagate. You battle compressor the egg, and then discard the egg to draw two, propagate, discard it to draw two, or whatever. I just explained the mechanic.
Okay. Yeah. You dive and draw for two. And basically you play a bunch of like energy disruption cards and lasers, and when you get close to the very end of your deck, you play Lysander's trump card and do it all over again until you get all your prizes.
Okay. And then was Lysander's trump card? Oh, okay. I know this. This is the first. So the first match I ever saw on TV was from Nationals, and they were mentioned. It was the finals of Nationals, and it was because that's when the trump card got banned.
It was before Nationals.
Okay, so talk to me about Nationals.
Okay, so I have to talk about regionals first.
Okay, go ahead.
And this is the last bit of Lysander's trump card was there. So basically this is when Roaring Skies started to come out, and Shaman was the big thing, and so Toad Shaman was basically the format, basically, and you basically just draw all these cards and you trump a trump card once and then just do it all over again. Raichu Bats was a thing, and eventually Lysander's trump card got banned, not because of the Toad. It was like a Japanese deck that came out where it's like you donk someone turn one with Latios.
Right.
Because you can attack if you go first or second.
Right.
Because of its fast rate attack.
Is that why they banned trump card?
That's the reason why.
Oh, so like, were there plus power was still in format?
For expanded, yeah, because the Japanese played a
okay.
different format.
Right.
So that's why they banned it.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Sounds
And
like it was a bad card, anyways.
It was so bad.
Bad for the format.
It was so good, but so bad.
Yeah, because you don't have to manage resources.
No, you never get punished for it, and then just like if you're playing against an energy disruption deck, it just never ends, and then eventually they're just gonna just grind you out and just beat you.
Well, so what is there anything else you want to say about Nationals?
And Nationals, it was Mega Ray, Monetric, Bats.
I meant regionals. I'm sorry.
Yeah, originals is like up
Okay.
to that point. Nationals, that's when Mega Ray was mostly popular. There was different variants of it. Landy Bats was the thing, still a thing. Toad Monetric Bats, Night March. Donphan, I don't think it popped up, but it does pop up eventually. And Archie's Toys, I think, started to appear a little bit during this time.
Okay.
And what ended up winning that tournament was... Who won that year?
Kaczynski won.
With Toad Garb against Wailord.
Right.
And I also got furious with that matchup too, because the Wailord should have won if he'd just gone faster.
Yeah. That was the first match I ever saw on TV, or I ever watched. Like that was my introduction to the competitive scene, and I was like, "This looks really boring." No, not really, but it was like so long.
It was. If you've been around for a while, it's just like it was so horrible to watch. Like it started getting exciting, like once they get close to the end of the like once the deck is close to getting milled out, or it's like he's about to get his last bit of prizes. But
yeah, so Sosa wins that, and then for Worlds, what's Worlds look like?
Worlds was so weird that year. I made a promise to someone, uh, to Kenny and his sister, that I will not touch Evil Tall for Worlds. So I tested different decks, and they saw how much I struggled with learning a different deck. Not like I could get the basic mechanics, but it's like to understand every situation, I needed time
Yeah.
with the deck.
When you say Kenny, you've been mentioning Kenny a lot. Is this Kenny Britton?
Kenny Britton, sorry about that.
Okay.
Okay. And so I ended up picking Landy Bats for that year, and it was a great call because the format was Night March, Donphan, and Manectric for some reason. But it was like the hype thing was Toad Garb and Wailord. So you gotta have a Wailord counter with Funnel Beaver, something that brings you back cards back into the deck,
Right.
or have more supporters so you could deal with Toad. But people's logic was to play a fast deck where it's like you get everything into the discard fast enough and you can start one-shotting.
Okay. So
And
that was Night March's breakout, wasn't it?
yes, that's like it had its appearance like throughout the it's like has its little small moments, but this is where it really blew up and it became a deck that everyone had to be curious about.
Mm-hmm.
And Jacob Van Wagner ended up winning after grinding through day 1 and getting into day 2 and winning the whole thing because Blastoise turn 1 will always beat Toad.
Right. So what did he beat in the final? I remember I watched that final too. I remember it was super one-sided.
It was Toad Bats.
It is Toad Bass. Okay.
Yeah.
With a
So-
Mewtwo, I think.
Yeah, but it's like, what can you do?
Yeah.
All you have to do is get 3 energies on a kill deal and you just start swinging.
Yeah. So Jacob Van Wagner wins that. And then we go into 2016.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, and that's XY on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then 2016, it's night? Is that Night March is good, but
Like, it was still a deck to worry about. It was like still popping up.
yeah,
The deck that was big because this is now where they created regionals being expanded and cities and states standard. Yeah, I don't think, or maybe some regionals were standard.
I don't know. I think there was a lot of expanded. If it wasn't,
It was.
all.
I
I think it was
recall-
all.
Yeah, I just knew that some regionals were expanded. I think almost all, but I could be wrong.
I think you're right. And then all cities and states were standard. I think you're right about that.
And for the expanded regionals, that's when I won my 4th one. And Evital Archeops was one of the decks that people were concerned about. Blastoise, Toad, Vileplume. There's like this weird Vileplume deck that came out with like had Agislash, Mewtwo.
That's right.
Mega Ray had a little bit of appearance, and eventually it just became a Evital Lasers meta, and then Groudon started popping up, and that's when people started thinking about Groudon.
Okay. Groudon, there's a Dragonite or something that was played. Is that right? Or was that never big? It's like a Healing Wind Dragonite or something like that. I guess that was. I don't know.
I don't think it was a big tech. I remember
Okay.
someone talking about it though.
Okay. So, what is it? This is when Night March takes over. Is that right?
Cities. Yes.
Cities is when. That's right. My first.
Yes.
My first
Yeah.
tournament was a Cities Championship that year, and I lost to Ryan Sablehouse in the finals. He was playing Night March, and then it just went on and on and on.
Yeah, this is when Night March started taking over. Vesequin was also a deck.
Mm. So how long did Night March rule the format for? From
It just-
cities till
On.
did it? Yeah.
Like because after this season, this is when it got rotated.
Okay. Breakpoint sort of turned that with Greninja, but it could still be. I mean,
It was it was weird. I don't know. Like some night marches, like most of the time, night march would be Greninja because it's Greninja,
Yeah,
and you beat yourself.
right.
Um, but yeah, for that cities, it was just. Actually, now I think about, I don't remember too much about the standard just because like my area was more big on expanded.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, I believe Night March was a big thing. Best of Quinn. I don't remember if Toad was still legal.
Yeah, it was. Toad Manectric Bats was pretty big.
Oh
Entei
yeah.
popped up during cities.
Hmm.
Vespiquen Vileplume came out for states, I think.
Yeah, yeah, it was for states. Yeah.
And that deck was crazy. I think Wambolt invented that.
Hmm.
And then the World Championship. Nationals. What was? I don't know what happened at Nationals. What was Nationals that year?
Nationals, it was weird. Nationals, it was basically Night March, Evital Maxis, Greninja. Those were the top three. Um,
Who won Nationals?
Nationals. Nationals was Vespiquen Night March, and I think it was.
Oh, that's right.
eh,
It was someone who I don't think it was a big
Nick.
name player.
Yeah, he just came out of nowhere. I actually played him at Worlds that year too. Funny enough. Nick.
Nick Robinson.
That's what it was.
Nick Robinson wins with Night March Vespiquen.
Hmm.
And
And he beat. I think he beat a Toad Giratina deck.
yeah, and that's right, Totina. And he played no trainer's mail, which was like
It was so weird.
no acrobike, no trainer's mail.
But it worked, and he got the W.
Okay, and then Nationals. I mean, so Nick wins Nationals, then Worlds. We have what happened at Worlds. Water Box was big. That's right.
I forgot. Oh, it popped up in Nationals, but this is when it was like almost the play for Worlds.
Was that had Sun and Moon come out yet?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Waterbox came out. Night March, Greninja.
Oh, this was Steam Siege was just legal for Worlds.
Yeah, Volcanion
Okay.
popped up for the Japanese players. Um,
Volcanion and Mega Audino were the Japanese decks.
and then Bioplume variants was also popular too, with like the Jolteon, Glaceon.
Oh, right. Plume Box, as they called it.
Plumebucks.
Okay, and Forest was obviously legal, where you just evolve grass whenever you want.
Then Mega Dino came out big, leading the way and winning the whole thing against Greninja.
It beats Greninja, and it does Mega Audino win that matchup, or does Greninja just lose to itself?
I think it's just Greninja just losing it to itself.
Okay.
But I think somebody said that Mega Dino actually wins that matchup. I don't know.
Okay.
I think it was just like one of those like one-hit wonders where it's like
Yeah.
Mega Dino didn't do anything after that.
And that was Shintaro Ito.
Yes.
Was he a named player before this?
I don't know too much about the Japanese players, but I
Okay.
think Franco mentioned he either was a decent, at least a player that was doing well, or just came out of nowhere kind of thing.
Okay, I think we had seen from him before, but I don't remember what.
I don't remember.
I don't know what, but I think he's a player who's done well, a big name for a while in Japan, but I don't remember exactly how. So that's the end of 2016. I think we'll cut it off there. Maybe in 3 years, if I'm still around, we'll do a 2017 to 2019 or something like that. But
And I'll maybe be here.
awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. That was pretty long, but
My head hurts so much just trying to think.
yeah, we appreciate
Like
it.
I kind of blinked that 2016 year, and I was like, "Holy shit!" Because it kind of I forgot that it flipped so much with expanded and standard. I don't remember what it was.
Yeah.
Like, it's like,
That's fine. Well, that's the only year I know anything about, so that's a good.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you again. Any shout outs or anything you want to say, or
shout outs to Someone's PC for being good buddies of mine and a great team. TC Evolutions, to you for having me on your show, and for everyone that's watching.
All right. Thank you again.